guys, today we're going to be taking a look at not one, not two, but three different Porsche 924, or should I say more accurately 933 in the case of these two race cars. But before we get too far into it, first a quick word from our sponsor.
This video is brought to you by Woodside Credit, the exclusive loan provider for Barrett-Jackson for over a decade. Estimate your lowest payment in America at woodsidecredit.com.
So today we're going to be taking a look at three different Porsche race cars. On the far end, we have a 924 SCCA race car. Then we have these, which are still 924s, but being that they're built for a special Porsche factory race car bit, they're actually now 933s. So let's take a look at some of the different bits that are going on here. These do have widened fenders in the rear, which is a trait we wouldn't see on some of the factory street cars until the 944 was introduced. And we even have the 924 Carrera GT, which had a different type of rear wide body that is not visible here. So let's show some of the highlight and details, including some of the interesting bits, more specifically this one being on the 933 side of things. So supposedly this is a factory built race car, and so this has a lot of really cool components. Most interestingly, as we'll get to the rear, it has 944 rear quarters that are not added on or anything, but are factory produced on the car by Porsche, which is a really interesting feature for what is a 924. Under the hood, we do have our 924 2-liter, but these have been buffed up quite a bit. Now they're making upwards somewhere in the neighborhood around 200 horsepower, sometimes 210 horsepower on a good race day. So you're making some serious horsepower out of these motors. They look absolutely fantastic, and I think it's cool that they were able to keep the sort of standard motor to fit within the racing classes. They're supposedly racing in certain GT3 classes in some cases, and rated for some of the C-class racing that you can see here. But pretty cool race cars. Obviously, we have Hoosier racing slicks around the outside here. Nice cool mesh wheels that you'll see some of the traits. Even that car has aero discs on it over there, which is pretty cool, but they just look really awesome. Even removing the pop-up headlight on the driver's side here for better airflow is a pretty interesting feature. As we go through it, they do have varying levels of modifications. The interior's been stripped. This one has a light cage on the inside. We do have a racing seat, and even the gauges have been updated with sort of a flat panel, which is sort of interesting, but they still have the 5-speed transaxle, which is pretty cool. It means that this car is going to have fairly good balance and weight distribution as it's scooting around the track. Even in the back here, this has been stripped. We've seen some things that have been added in the back, usually replaced with a fuel cell, everything to meet the racing regulations and things like that. Moving on to this car is a little bit more extreme. Supposedly this car has been featured in a lot of different media and magazines, so this one might stand out to you. You might even recognize it more than I do. It's got very nice BBS aero discs on the front, same with the mesh wheels in the back that do have those Hoosier racing slicks. But then this 924 SCCA race car in the end is really interesting to me for a couple different reasons. This car has a full-on cage that has been added. We have a big fuel cell in the back. It has an alternator that you can go ahead and tie up. It doesn't currently have a belt on it, but you could add a belt on there, and then that can be used for longer races as opposed to just running on the batteries. And we see our transaxle, which is awesome. And then this lightweight fiberglass door, you can see all the glass. The rear hatch has been replaced by plexiglass because, of course, lightweight. But then we get over here, we can see the door has been completely taken off, and now we have a full cage with a really aggressive seat. And then you might be thinking you could potentially fit that through there, but then the roof even comes off. So there's a couple different screws. If we take a look closely, you can see there's some screws here, and then we can see there's some other screws and rivets that are over on this side of the door there. And apparently if you undo those, you can lift the roof off of this car because it has a full cage, so it doesn't need that added structural integrity, and has some extra bars and stuff added for rigidity while racing, which is pretty interesting. Then as we come to the front, there are modern sort of 944 spec races, but you'll find different body parts than what you'd find on these cars. So these cars actually have a removable hood and just have the hood latches as well, versus the current 944 spec cars usually have a full clamshell that'll actually fold up, which is quite different from these actual race cars, which are going to be selling. And they look absolutely gorgeous. I love looking at the different cars. This car actually has bolted on rear fenders that were made from a custom mold that look just like what would have come on the 944 in the later cars. So there you go. There's a look at three different race cars from Porsche. Maybe they're a little bit different. One of the interesting things for me is I had never heard of a Porsche 933 race car, but here are two examples, the black car and the white car, and our 924 SCCA race car. Thank you so much for watching that video. If you're looking to purchase your next collector car, be sure to check out autohunter.com, which is our online auction with cars going live every single weekday, or the sister site, ClassicCars.com, which has over 30,000 cars currently live on the site. If you enjoyed the video, could hit that like button for us. We'd really appreciate it. And consider getting subscribed for more content like that in the future. Thank you so much for watching.